The first time Savia met Cairo, it didn't feel like the beginning of a love story. It felt like an accident the universe didn't bother to explain. Rain had been falling in soft sheets, turning the city sidewalks into mirrors, and Savia, already late, ran into him at the entrance of a narrow bookstore cafe. Her shoulder hit his chest, her books scattered, and her apology came out tangled with breath. Before we begin, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support means a lot, and it helps stories like this reach the hearts that need them. Cairo crouched quickly, gathering her books with careful hands, as if paper had feelings. His fingers paused on a worn notebook with a ribbon marker. "You write?" he asked, holding it up. Savia's cheeks warmed. "Sometimes." "Then you're dangerous," he said, and the way he smiled made her forget the rain for one slow second. Writers can ruin people. She snatched the notebook with a shy laugh. "I don't ruin people." "Not on purpose," he corrected, standing and handing her the last book. "That's the worst kind." His name didn't come with fireworks. It came with quiet steadiness. They shared the same table inside because the cafe was crowded, and Savia didn't know how to refuse him without feeling like she'd be refusing something bigger than politeness. He asked her what she liked to read. She told him she liked stories where people said what they meant. He leaned back, amused. "So you like fiction?" That made her laugh, full and surprised. "And you?" "I like stories where people try," he said. "Even if they fail." Savia watched his hands as he spoke. Calm hands. Honest hands. The kind that didn't promise what they couldn't deliver. They met again without planning to. Same cafe, different day, and it felt normal too quickly, like the world had simply placed him in her path and said, "Here." This one. Over weeks, their conversations turned from books into life. Savia told him about her mother's small tailoring shop and her own plan to become a documentary editor. Cairo told her he worked with urban design, trying to fix neighborhoods no one cared about. He spoke with the kind of conviction that didn't need loudness. One evening, when the cafe lights dimmed and the rain returned, Cairo walked her to the bus stop. The city smelled like wet earth and diesel. Savia hugged her coat tight. "You're always cold," he observed. "I'm always thinking," she replied. Cairo paused like he was choosing courage. "Then think about this," he said, voice low. "I want to see you again tomorrow." Savia's heart did something foolish. "You already saw me today. I want to see you again anyway." She didn't say yes right away. She didn't say no either. She just looked at him, and her silence became a door half open. Cairo smiled slowly. "That's a yes." And it was. They didn't fall in love like a dramatic movie. They fell in love like morning sunlight slowly filling a room. It started with shared meals and long walks. With him learning her quiet moods. With her learning that his calm wasn't distance, it was depth. He learned her favorite street snack, and he bought it for her when she looked tired. She learned the way he went quiet when he was worried, and she'd touch his arm like a promise without words. On Savia's birthday, Cairo brought her a small silver bracelet. Simple, not flashy. "I can't afford something loud," he said. "I don't want loud," Savia whispered, sliding it on. "I want real." Cairo looked at her like he'd been holding that same wish in his chest for years. "Then let it be real," he said. It was real, until the world remembered to interfere. The first crack came disguised as family concern. Savia's uncle, Roman, came to visit her mother's shop one afternoon. He was a big man with a polished voice and expensive shoes. Savia saw the way customers greeted him with forced respect. He watched her while she arranged fabric rolls. "So," he began, "I hear you're spending time with that young man." Savia didn't stop working. "Cairo." Roman's mouth curved. "Yes. Cairo. The architect boy." "He's not a boy. He doesn't have money," her uncle said, as if stating the weather. Savia's hands froze. "He has a job." "A job is not a future," Roman replied. "Savia, you're a beautiful girl. You can marry well and lift your mother's burden. You can change your life in one decision." Savia swallowed. "My life isn't a business deal." Roman leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Your mother has debts you don't know about. The shop is surviving on prayers. Do you want her to lose everything because you're chasing romance?" That night, Savia asked her mother directly. Her mother avoided her eyes, which was answer enough. "It's not your worry," her mother said, voice soft. "I will manage." Savia felt her chest tighten. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you're young," her mother whispered. "I wanted you to live." Savia sat on the edge of her bed and stared at the bracelet on her wrist. It suddenly looked like something fragile in a storm. A week later, she met Cairo near the waterfront. He noticed her silence immediately. "You're far away," he said. Savia forced a smile. "I'm here." "No," Cairo replied gently. "Your body is here. Your eyes are somewhere else." She tried to speak, but the truth felt heavy. Finally, she told him everything: her mother's debts, her uncle's pressure, the quiet threat behind it all. Cairo listened, jaw set. When she finished, he exhaled slowly. "How much?" Savia blinked. "What? How much does she owe?" Cairo asked, already reaching for his phone like a man preparing for war. "We'll figure it out." Savia grabbed his wrist. "Cairo, no. You can't fix this with money." "But money is what's choking you," he insisted, anger flickering. "If I can remove it." "You don't even have that kind of money," Savia said, voice cracking. "And even if you did, my uncle won't stop. He wants control. He wants me to marry someone he chooses." Cairo stared at her. "Who?" Savia hesitated. Saying the name felt like betrayal. "Dastan." Cairo's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Dastan? The shipping family?" Savia nodded, shame burning her throat. Cairo laughed once, not happily. "So that's the plan. They're selling you as a solution." "I'm not being sold," Savia snapped, and then her eyes filled. "I'm being cornered." Cairo softened, stepping closer. "Savia," he said, voice low. "Look at me." She looked. "I love you," he said, simple and direct. "And I'm not saying that to trap you. I'm saying it so you remember you're not alone." Her tears slid down. "Love doesn't pay debts. Love builds," Cairo replied. "It's slower, but it's real." Savia shook her head. "I don't want to lose my mother." "You won't," Cairo said, but his certainty sounded like hope trying to impersonate reality. The pressure grew quickly after that. Roman began showing up more, whispering to her mother, calling Savia ungrateful when she refused to meet Dastan. Her mother's face grew thinner. The shop grew quieter. Even the lights seemed dimmer. One afternoon, Savia walked into the shop and found her mother crying behind the counter. Papers lay scattered, overdue notices, stamped warnings, numbers that looked like cliffs. "What happened?" Savia asked, panic rising. Her mother wiped her face quickly. "Nothing." Savia picked up a paper. "They're taking the shop." Her mother's shoulders sagged. "They gave me a deadline." Savia's voice shook. "And Uncle Roman said Dastan can fix it." Her mother didn't answer, and that silence felt like a slow heartbreak. That night, Savia sat alone in her room, staring at the bracelet until the metal blurred. When Cairo called, she let it ring. When he texted, she stared at the screen. Her fingers hovered, trembling. Finally, she typed, "Can we meet tomorrow? Please." They met at the cafe where it started, but it didn't feel like the beginning anymore. It felt like standing on the edge of something ending. Cairo arrived and smiled, relieved, until he saw her expression. "What is it?" he asked. Savia's throat tightened. "I need you to listen without interrupting." Cairo's smile faded. "Okay." Savia inhaled like she was preparing to jump. "I'm going to meet Dastan." Cairo blinked once. "Meet him?" Savia's voice broke. "Not just meet." The air between them changed. Cairo went still, as if someone had turned him into stone. "Savia," he said carefully, "what are you saying?" She stared at the table. "I can't let my mother lose everything." Cairo's eyes looked darker. "So you're choosing him?" "I'm choosing my mother," Savia whispered. Cairo leaned forward, voice urgent. "And what about you? What about us?" Savia's tears fell onto the table. "That's the part one can't say out loud." Cairo sat back slowly. His hands clenched once, then relaxed, like he was trying not to break. "Tell me something," he said, voice rough. "Do you love me?" Savia looked at him, and her heart felt like it was ripping. "Yes." Cairo's eyes glistened. "Then why are you doing this?" "Because love is not the only thing that hurts," Savia whispered. "Sometimes responsibility hurts more." Cairo stared at her for a long time. Then he nodded once, like he'd accepted a blow. "If you walk away," he said quietly, "I won't beg you. But don't ever tell yourself this is what you wanted." Savia pressed a hand to her mouth, sobbing silently. Cairo stood. His chair scraped the floor, loud in the quiet cafe. He placed a folded note on the table. "What's that?" Savia asked through tears. Cairo's voice trembled. "A promise I wrote for you weeks ago. I was going to give it to you when I had enough courage." Savia reached for it, but he stepped back. "Keep the bracelet," he said. "Or don't. But remember, someone loved you without bargaining." Then he turned and walked away, leaving Savia staring at the note like it was the last warm thing in a suddenly cold world. Outside, rain began again, soft, steady, unforgiving, like the sky was mourning too. And Savia, who had never believed love could feel like a funeral, finally understood. 2 weeks later, Savia stood in a bright showroom beside Dostan and wondered if this was what surrender looked like. Everything around her was polished, glass walls, designer chairs, quiet music that sounded expensive. Dastan's family moved like they owned the air. They smiled politely, but their eyes weighed Savia as if she were a piece of fine cloth being measured. Dostan himself wasn't cruel. That was what confused her. He was composed, handsome in a careful way, and his voice stayed calm even when he spoke about her life like it was a plan. "My mother likes you," he said as they walked through the hallway. "She thinks you have good manners." Savia's lips barely moved. "That's nice." Dostan glanced at her. "You don't look happy." Savia forced a small smile. "It's a lot." He nodded as if he understood. "Marriage is always a lot. But I can offer stability." Stability. The word landed like a coin on a grave. That evening, Savia returned home to find her mother sitting in the shop, calmer than she'd been in months. The threat letters were gone. The shelves looked fuller. Even the lights seemed brighter. Her mother reached for her hand. "Roman said Dastan's family settled the urgent debts." Savia's chest squeezed. "So it's done." Her mother's eyes shimmered. "My daughter, you don't have to do this." Savia's throat burned. "Yes, I do." Her mother shook her head, tears rising. "I never wanted your love to become payment." Savia didn't answer because if she spoke, she would collapse. That night, she opened Cairo's folded note for the first time. Inside, the handwriting was neat, steady, like him. "Savia, if the world ever makes you doubt yourself, remember what I see when I look at you. A woman who tries even when she's tired, who carries people even when she's bleeding, who loves with honesty. I don't need you to be perfect. I only need you to be real. And if you choose me, I'll spend my life proving your choice was safe." Savia read it twice. Then again. Then she pressed the paper to her chest and cried until morning. Cairo didn't call anymore. That hurt, but it also made sense. Silence was his boundary. She had broken the bridge. She couldn't demand he stand on the ruins. Still, the city punished her with reminders. Every cafe corner, every rain-soaked street, every bookstore aisle became an echo of him. Sometimes she thought she saw his tall frame in a crowd, and her heart would leap like a foolish child, only to crash when the stranger turned. One afternoon, Savia went to the waterfront alone. The air smelled like salt and old wood. She leaned against the railing, trying to calm the storm inside her. A familiar voice behind her said, "You always come here when you can't breathe." Savia turned so fast she almost stumbled. Cairo stood a few steps away, hands in his pockets, expression guarded. He looked thinner, tired, like someone who had been carrying pain without complaining. Savia's breath caught. "Cairo." He nodded once, polite but distant. "Savia." Her eyes filled immediately. "I didn't think you'd." "I didn't plan to," he interrupted softly. "I came for a site inspection." "I saw you." Savia swallowed. "How are you?" Cairo's jaw tightened. "Alive." The word stung. She deserved that. She took a shaky step closer. "I read your note." Cairo looked away toward the water. "You weren't supposed to read it like a goodbye." Savia's voice broke. "I didn't want it to be." Cairo's eyes returned to her, sharp with restrained emotion. "Then why did you do it?" Savia's tears fell. "Because my mother was drowning. And you threw yourself into another cage to pull her out," Cairo said, voice low. "I understand, Savia. I do. But understanding doesn't stop pain." Savia wiped her face. "I'm sorry." Cairo's laugh was small and bitter. Sorry as a candle in a storm. They stood in silence, the water moving below them like time that refused to stop. Finally, Savia whispered, "Are you okay?" Cairo's voice turned quiet. "Some days I'm fine. Some days I hate you. Some days I miss you so much I feel sick. And then I hate myself for missing someone who chose another man." Savia flinched like he'd slapped her. "Cairo, I didn't stop loving you." That made his eyes flash. "Don't say that." "It's true," she pleaded. Cairo stepped closer, so close she could see the pain in the lines near his eyes. "Do you know what it does to a man?" he whispered. "To hear the woman he loves say she still loves him while she walks into another man's house?" Savia trembled. "I didn't want to. But you did." His voice cracked. "And now you want comfort from me?" Savia shook her head rapidly. "No. I needed you to know the truth." Cairo stared at her, breathing hard. Then he stepped back as if distance was the only thing keeping him from breaking. "Here's my truth," he said, voice steadier now. "I loved you enough to imagine a life. I built plans in my head like buildings, strong, detailed. And you demolished them with one decision." Savia sobbed. "I'm sorry." Cairo nodded slowly. "I know," Savia whispered. "Are you seeing someone?" Cairo's mouth tightened. "No." Hope sparked, small, reckless. Cairo noticed it and shut it down with one look. "Don't," he warned softly. "Don't hope. Hope is how people drown twice." Savia swallowed, pain swallowing her back. Cairo turned slightly. "You're going to marry him?" Savia's shoulders shook. "Yes." Cairo closed his eyes briefly, like he was swallowing glass. "Then I won't stand in your way." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I brought this for the council office." "But take it." Savia frowned, taking it carefully. "What is this?" "A proposal," Cairo said. "For a community redevelopment contract. If it's approved, it will bring steady income to your mother's shop neighborhood. It won't fix everything, but it will help." Savia stared at him, stunned. "Why are you giving me this?" Cairo's voice softened despite himself. "Because I loved you. And I still don't want your mother to suffer." Tears spilled harder. "Cairo." He stepped back again, guarding himself. "Don't thank me. Just use it." Savia clutched the envelope. "You're too good." Cairo shook his head. "No. I'm just tired." He turned to leave. Savia called after him, voice breaking. "Will I ever see you again?" Cairo paused without turning. His shoulders rose and fell once. "Maybe," he said quietly. "But not the way you want." Then he walked away, disappearing into the moving city like a song that ends before you're ready. The wedding preparations moved fast after that, like the world wanted to prevent Savia from changing her mind. Her uncle Roman beamed proudly, calling her a wise girl now. Daston's family sent fabrics, jewelry, planners. Everyone praised Savia for choosing security. No one asked if security felt like a coffin. Dastan tried in his own way. One night, he brought her dinner and sat across from her in the quiet house he had prepared for them. "You're always quiet," he said gently. "Are you afraid?" Savia hesitated. Honesty felt dangerous, but lying felt worse. "I'm not afraid," she said slowly. "I'm grieving." Daston's eyes narrowed slightly. "Because of him." Savia's chest tightened. "You know, I'm not blind," Dastan replied calmly. "I know there is someone else in your heart." Savia swallowed. "Then why are you still doing this?" Dastan stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice that was almost sad. "Because this marriage benefits my family. It benefits your family. And because sometimes people live with compromises." Savia whispered, "But what about love?" Daston's eyes looked distant. "Love is not always the deal. Sometimes it's the cost." Those words followed Savia into sleep like a shadow. She realized then, Dastan wasn't her villain. He was simply a man willing to accept a half-love because it served a full purpose. And Savia was walking toward a life where her heart would always be elsewhere. The day before the wedding, Savia stood alone in her room and held Cairo's bracelet in her palm. She hadn't worn it in weeks. It felt like a secret she could still touch. She whispered into the quiet, "I'm sorry I couldn't choose you." And somewhere in the city, she imagined Cairo standing under rain again. Still trying, still failing, still loving without reward. The wedding day arrived dressed in white and gold. And Savia, the bride everyone celebrated, felt like the saddest person in the room. Savia's wedding day looked perfect in photographs. Her gown flowed like a soft river. The hall glittered with lights. The guests smiled wide. Dastan stood tall beside her, composed and polished, the kind of groom families bragged about. But inside Savia, something kept breaking in quiet pieces. When the officiant asked if she accepted Dastan, Savia heard her own. Yes, the way someone hears thunder from far away. Real, but not close enough to feel like it belonged to her. The applause came. The music rose. People hugged her. Her mother cried, holding Savia's face in her hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saving us." Savia smiled because she didn't know what else to do. That night, when the celebration ended and the house finally grew quiet, Savia sat on the edge of the bed in her new home, still wearing part of her bridal jewelry like it was a costume she couldn't remove. Dastan loosened his tie and watched her carefully. "You've been brave," he said. Savia's voice was small. "Brave is what people call you when you're dying quietly." Dastan's expression tightened. He sat beside her, leaving space between them like a respectful distance. I won't force affection, he said. I know your heart is not fully here. Savia turned to him, surprised. Then why marry me? Dastan exhaled. Because I made commitments. Because our families made arrangements. And because I thought time might soften what love refused to. Savia's eyes filled. Time doesn't change the name in your heart. Dastan's gaze lowered. Maybe not, but time can teach people how to live with pain. Savia whispered, that's not a love story. Dastan looked up, and for the first time, his composure slipped into something human. No, he admitted. It's not. The first months of marriage became a quiet routine built around politeness. Dastan provided everything: comfort, stability, respect. He never insulted her. He never raised his voice. He treated her mother with kindness. He even supported the redevelopment proposal Cairo had given Savia, funding parts of it so it would pass faster. People praised Dastan endlessly. A good man, they said. A generous husband. Savia agreed aloud because it was true. But every night, Savia lay beside a man who was not her love, and her heart stayed awake like a restless ghost. She tried to be present. She tried to build friendship. Some evenings, Dastan made her laugh with dry humor. Some mornings, he brought her tea exactly how she liked it without her asking. Once, as they sat on the balcony, Dastan said quietly, "You miss him today." Savia's throat tightened. How do you know? Dastan stared at the city lights. Because you go quiet when your mind goes to him. And because you stare at rain like it's speaking to you. Savia swallowed. I'm sorry. Dastan's jaw flexed. Don't apologize. Just don't pretend I don't notice. Savia's voice trembled. Then why do you stay calm? Dastan's eyes looked tired. Because anger won't change reality. And because I knew what I was buying into. That word, buying, made Savia flinch. Dastan caught it inside. I didn't mean you are a thing, he said quickly. I mean, I knew your heart had a history. Savia whispered. His name is Cairo. Dastan nodded once. I know. A year passed. Savia's mother's shop improved. The neighborhood contract brought business. The debts became a memory. Her Uncle Roman's pride quieted because the crisis was gone. One evening, Savia sat with her mother in the renovated shop, watching customers flow in and out, smiling and bargaining like life had finally returned. Her mother touched Savia's hand. You've saved us, she said softly. Savia stared at the floor. But I lost myself. Her mother's eyes filled. My daughter. Savia's voice cracked. If I didn't have to choose, I would have chosen love. Her mother nodded slowly. Then maybe you shouldn't keep paying forever for a debt that is already settled. Savia froze. What do you mean? Her mother looked down, ashamed. Dastan's family cleared everything long ago. You've already given them what they wanted. Savia's breath caught. Are you telling me I don't have to stay? Her mother's tears fell. I'm telling you I never wanted you to stay if you were dying inside. Savia's chest felt like it split open. For the first time, a door appeared, one she thought had been sealed forever. That night, Savia went home and found Dastan in the living room reading. The house smelled like calm. She stood in front of him. Her hands shook. Dastan, she said quietly. We need to talk. He looked up at once, sensing the weight. Okay. Savia swallowed hard. My mother's debts are gone. The shop is stable. Everything is okay now. Dastan's eyes held hers. Yes. Savia's voice cracked. So why am I still here? Silence stretched. Dastan's face tightened, not with surprise but with resignation, like he had been waiting for this day. He closed his book slowly. You want to leave? Savia's tears fell. I don't want to destroy your life. Dastan stood, moving closer. Savia, he said carefully, my life is not destroyed because a woman tells the truth. My pride will sting, yes. People will talk, yes. But I'm not your prison guard. Savia sobbed. Then why didn't you stop this? Dastan's eyes softened. Because you didn't ask me to stop. And because I thought you might choose to stay, even without love, out of duty. Some women do. Savia whispered, I tried. Dastan nodded. I know. She wiped her face. I still love him. Dastan's jaw clenched, the first real pain showing. Say his name again. Savia flinched. I. Say it, Dastan said, voice firm but not cruel. Savia trembled. Cairo. Dastan closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they looked wet. I hoped, he admitted quietly, that one day you would say my name like that. Savia covered her mouth, crying harder. I'm sorry. Dastan stepped back, breathing carefully. Don't say sorry again, he said. Just if you leave, leave with honesty. And if you go to him, go without shame. Savia shook her head, stunned. You would let me? Dastan gave a sad smile. Let you? Savia, I can't own what you feel. I can only choose what kind of man I'll be when the truth finally arrives. Savia whispered. You deserve someone who loves you. Dastan nodded slowly. Yes, and you deserve the same. They agreed quietly to separate, without war, without drama. Still, the world outside was loud. Roman exploded when he heard. After all we did, he shouted. You want to embarrass us? Savia stood firm for the first time. You embarrassed me when you turned my heart into a bargain. Her mother defended her. Enough, she said, voice strong. She has paid more than enough. Savia moved out a week later. Her hands shook as she packed, not because she doubted her choice, but because she didn't know if love would still accept her after everything. She found Cairo at the same waterfront, as if the universe knew where unfinished love waited. He stood near the railing, looking out. He didn't turn when she approached, as if he could sense her presence the way some people sense rain. Cairo, Savia whispered. He turned slowly. His eyes widened, shock first, then caution. Savia. Her breath shook. I left. Cairo's jaw tightened. Why are you here? Savia swallowed. Because I married another man, but I only loved one. Cairo stared at her as if he didn't trust his ears. Don't, he warned softly. Don't come back and turn my healing into confusion. Savia stepped closer, tears falling. I'm not here to play with you. I'm here because I finally stopped letting fear run my life. Cairo's voice trembled with anger and pain. You chose him. I chose survival, Savia whispered. But survival isn't living. Cairo looked away, breathing hard. You broke me, Savia. I know, she sobbed. And I will carry that guilt forever. But if there's even a small part of you that's still... Cairo turned back sharply. His eyes were wet. Still what? Savia's voice cracked. Still loves me. The wind moved between them. Cairo's shoulders sagged, like a fight leaving his body. Love doesn't turn off because someone hurt you, he whispered. It just becomes careful. Savia nodded fast. I can be careful. I can be patient. I don't want to rush you. I couldn't live with the lie anymore. Cairo stared at her for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly, like a man confessing. There were nights I hated you, and mornings I missed you, and days I tried to forget you. But you stayed in my chest like a song that won't end. Savia sobbed. I'm here. Cairo took one slow step closer. What do you want from me? Savia wiped her tears. A chance to earn what I lost. Cairo's voice was barely audible. And if I can't give you that? Savia nodded, swallowing pain. Then I'll leave. But at least I'll know I didn't abandon love twice. Cairo's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, he reached out, hesitant, and touched her wrist where the bracelet used to sit. You don't wear it anymore, he murmured. Savia's voice shook. I kept it. I just couldn't wear it in a life that wasn't true. Cairo exhaled, and something in him softened. If you're back, he said quietly, then we start slow. Savia nodded, tears spilling again. Slow is fine. Cairo looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, his smile appeared, small, wounded, real. Then come, he said. Let's walk. And as they walked along the water, the city lights flickering like fragile hope, Savia realized something painful and beautiful at once. Sometimes love doesn't save you from heartbreak. Sometimes love waits on the other side of it. Before we end, please like, comment, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Your support helps keep these love stories alive.